You've been teaching since really long. You taught at SPA. I think you're also teaching at IIT Roorkee. You are here in Alliance. You taught at Pearl. I think architectural education have changed significant changes.
So there are many colleges now, and including in architecture, therefore, who are probably not really giving what is required. Also, what has happened is that because of this not really understanding what is branding, they are much more into sales and marketing, which also sort of dilutes, because whatever limited finance they will have, if they spend a large amount of chunk of the money in just trying to impress, they are managing to shortchange the education itself. Not too many people were actually requiring to do interiors. I mean, residential interiors, very few people did. And even in the commercial domain, the smaller shops or boutiques and all that, they really didn't spend too much money on too much concern on that.
So the one you're a SPA graduate, and for all arguments, I think we have two institutions in India which are supposed to be globally recognized, SPA and SEP. And I'm also a SPA graduate. I did my urban design from there. How do you see the role of this national level institution in driving the planning, design, and architecture domain in India? Because in last 30 years, a lot of private institutions have come up. While you are a product of a very centrally located Delhi campus, and how do you see this entire journey of from state sponsored or state driven study to a privately driven education these days?
I think it's a mixed bag, which I have seen. I have yes, I am a graduate from a central government institute. I started my teaching career there also as well. But soon I moved into the private colleges because they were at the time very beginning stages, like Sushan School of Art and Architecture. There used to be a TVD School of Habitat Studies. That's the place I spend most of my time. And now after that moved to Pearl Academy, which is not architecture but interiors. In fact, interiors came in a big way, which was earlier not there. Now, if I mean, try to sort of look at the government institutes and the private institutes. I think they have taken, the private institutes have been able to help with the number of students who wanted to do architecture. Because earlier it was extremely difficult, there were just very few. And unfortunately, most of these government institutes, which were otherwise pretty good, they could not actually expand. They could not expand, neither they could expand within their own campus to be able to increase intake, nor could they have other institute spreads. It was only IIT which sort of managed to sort of move, but well, architecture is not really there except for originally
Roorkee
only one Kharagpur, and then once Roorkee became an IIT, brought architecture.
It was elevated as an IIT.
Exactly. So I don't know if it's elevated or not, but well, that's a different matter. So the private colleges did come up, and I think they helped a lot of aspiring youngsters to get into architecture. They also brought in a lot more infrastructural support systems because being in the private domain, they had to also start creating their own brand. And in the initial stages, I think that was something which worked very well. But I think with time, and it I think happens with anything, that in the beginning, only those people came in who were interested. Then it started becoming such a business that there were many institutes that just jumped into the bandwagon just to get something out of it. They were not really looking at having a university from the education point of view. They were trying to do something. They just found it was a good business. So there are many colleges now, and including in architecture, therefore, who are probably not really giving what is required. Also, what has happened is that because of this not really understanding what is branding, they are much more into sales and marketing, which also sort of dilutes, because whatever limited finance they will have, if they spend a large amount of chunk of the money in just trying to impress, um, they are managing to shortchange the education itself. But as I said, that not all private colleges can be put into that category. Many private colleges, I think, are doing pretty good, and as long as they keep their head okay, I think they will keep on. So I think it will be a good mix. The government colleges, on the other hand, are getting a bit. I think there are many of them are slowing down. Maybe because of the competition, because of many other reasons. Because now what is happening is that the kind of faculty pool that you are getting is now getting spread out themselves, right? So it's thinning, and there are many other aspects that they have to look into. And as a result, what happens is that institute after institute, both government as well as, they're not really doing as much on the curriculum. And curriculum more not from the point of view of administrative practices, but from actually sort of improving the academic rigor and the sort of purpose. I think there we are getting some. I mean, we are shortchanged everywhere. I mean, it doesn't matter government or private. It's happening all over the place. So I'm not a person who will try and differentiate between these two institutes too much. The government institutes are also more affordable. So there is a certain class of people, sort of economic class of people who would like to go there. There's another class of people who can afford higher fees. They can therefore go into a private situation, all that. So I think it helps everybody, a kind of a good mix. Sure.
I mean, your response really triggered a question in me. So when I did architecture, and I'm sure when you did as well, there was a principle that you don't see interiors as an exclusive thing. So while we are designing a space, we are actually designing a space inside, outside, both. And then suddenly, I think it was after 2010 maybe that suddenly we have mainstreaming of interior design. A lot of colleges started offering it. There was courses in maybe SEPT or other premium institutions before 2010 as well. But I think after 2010 there was a boom in interior design, and suddenly we started teaching interior as a silo. And somehow this disconnect where somebody is doing the exterior or the envelope of the building, and then somebody will be doing the interior. How do you see this? Because when we were doing architecture, it was unfathomable. It was kind of a taboo that you cannot talk something like this. So what's your take? I mean, yeah, our world is changing, but maybe as an academician, how do you see that?
Yeah, not only just an academician, I started my teaching career in architecture, and for the last about 15 years, I've been actually in interior design college, and I helped set up the first department in Pearl Academy. But so yeah, it's an interesting condition that has happened. I guess that earlier, not too many people were actually uh, requiring to do interiors. I mean, residential interiors, very few people did. And even in the commercial domain, the smaller shops or boutiques and all that, they really didn't spend too much money on too much concern on that. It's only high-end hotels and like hospitality. And yes, there were architects who sort of went into. In architecture education, we do take the spatial part of interiors to a reasonable degree, but we don't take anything more than that. We don't go further from there because concentrating on the building and the shell and outside and this and that, and we have a large range. So I think that the interior design part was actually not really taken up seriously. So, and in the industry, if it was not really required that much as well, so I think it worked fine. But I think the last about 20 years or 30 years maybe, a lot of things are happening. Like for example, businesses are continuously changing locations. Lot many new things are coming up, and for their own reasons of attracting customers, etc., they would like to sort of have an interior which is appreciated by people visually. I also find in the residential sectors, people are sort of buying and selling houses, moving into. They want to also appropriate some of the flats or apartments that they want, which may not be very decorative interiors, but it's much more that's why the word interior architecture came up. So I think that there is space. There is space, and I think that a lot of older buildings which are again getting reappropriated for new. So we can call it adaptive reuse, but okay, just simply I know buildings which are taken over, and it might have been something else earlier. A new activity is coming up, which is where you're not really touching the shell very much, the hardware of the building. So here I think there is a space where a lot of interior designers come in. And then what also has happened is that architecture domain gets stuck with certain requirements of registration
Yeah.
and down licensing and all that. So very too many things about it. And therefore what happens is that you're qualifying that you have to have, let's say, maths. Now, there are people who probably don't have maths for whatever reasons, X, Y, Z, but they would like to get into the domain of spatial design, and interior design gives them that opportunity.
So it bridges that gap.
Bridges that gap, and I think that a lot of youngsters whom I have met who have joined our, interiors, quite a few of them actually said we wanted to be in this field, but because I didn't want to take science or I didn't want to take maths, I was not able to get into architecture. But I'm happy with trying to sort of make interior spaces pretty well. I mean, I don't want to get into the civil engineering part, and this is fine. So I think it has given an opportunity to lot many people, and I think it has been a good change. I mean, I am a person who actually believes. So now, slowly and gradually, when the architect also has to look at 500 different things, I think a kind of a teamwork where you have these various specializations, including landscape architects and interior architects, and they all can come together and then sort of this thing. I think that's the way forward somewhere. It's a struggle right now. We are not used to it, but I think that's the way, and I'm very happy to see
that things will settle down, and it's a positive change.
Yes, I think it's a positive change.
You've been teaching since really long. You taught at SPA. I think you're also teaching at IIT Roorkee. You are here in Alliance. You taught at Pearl. I think architectural education have changed significant changes. We had a time when architecture was an MBA where everybody really wanted to be an architect. Now we are facing at 50% vacant seats in parts of the India. So why do you think suddenly there's a massive drop in the intake of students? Is it losing the shine, or do we have too many colleges and too few takers? I mean, does it worry you that where we are heading? Your thoughts on that?
I don't think that I'm worried, but yeah, there is a concern. We do have a shortfall of architects in this country. I mean, all the bigger cities and all that, you will find architects, but when you go to smaller cities, I'm not talking about the rural areas, but I'm saying smaller cities, a lot of construction is happening there, but unfortunately, you don't get that expertise of an architect. In fact, there are too many people who, without an architectural background, are trying to fill in those spaces like draftsmen and all that. But so that means that there is a requirement. But I think that what also has happened in our education, we have basically looked at architecture more as a high urban, practice, which doesn't help these young people to actually understand that there is more to architecture than making, big buildings. Like, I mean, you can't have Taj Mahal as the icon of architecture, right? And entire history and everything, you're only talking about monuments, right? And when you're looking at the star architects, which you're talking about, they're only talking about these big buildings and all that. How many architects actually aspire to design a house for a middle class person? And that's where perhaps it is required. So I think that there is a kind of a change that is required. One, I think that the architectural practice, which is still in that atelier kind of a practice, I think this whole thing about trying to get a corporate job and therefore other occupations where you get a higher entry level salary, etc., which in a place like architecture will not happen. And if it happens, then we lose the original architecture plot. So I think that is where the contradiction is. And I think that we need to address that contradiction. We may not be able to change the conditions because a cottage industry will be a cottage industry and a corporate industry will be a corporate industry, right? But do we need to make that change or that difference? Because right now, I think most of the students, they have that angst that, they're spending so much of time, money and energy. And when they go out, compared to their own other friends who are on different occupations, they are not getting enough right at the very beginning, which sort of upsets them, and then they tell the other people don't come, right? So it's like that. So I think that there needs to be a change there, rather than trying to compromise the education and trying to fit lesser number of years and all that. I think we need to explain that everything is different. I mean, like, what is the captain in cricket versus what is the captain in hockey? Now you can't say that the captain in hockey will come and say, look at the captain, he takes all the decision throughout. I will also take that decision, right?
Yes.
You can't. Every game has its own
rules and
yeah.
Landscape.
Exactly. Right.
It reminds me of my first lecture where we were told that there's a book called Architecture Without Architects.
Yes.
And we were told that you are not needed. Without you, the society can function. The duty is yours to find a niche for yourself and find a job which you can make the life better of people. So it's a fascinating book about how the entire human history have already been building without architects. So now it's up to us to find a rightful
for
place.
Everything. I think that I really need a gym to keep myself fit?
Yeah.
Right. But if the facility is there, many of us, not all, not necessary, many of us will like to take that advantage. So if architecture as a special input is there, available, those people who want to, and for that one has to know that, is it giving me something?
Yes.
So many times what I have found is that a fresh graduate or even sometimes a senior person is not able to make the owner of a house or would-be client, make him understand that what do I bring on the table, right? And I think that is where we just simply stand there, we have a license, but if the other person understands that he will get something better,
then
why would he not pay?
Absolutely. So there's a gap between the society is not able to appreciate architects and we are not able to find our space.
Yeah, but here about my contention is that very often we say that the society doesn't understand us. But it's not the society's job.
Yeah, we need to find a space.
That's like what you said, that we will have to make ourselves useful to the society so that the society actually comes and says, please come.
Fascinating.
So I think that's
right.